All right, so hopefully everybody had a pretty good lab session. I hope everybody is just, having a not too horrible first week of school, cold aside, right? So as I mentioned on Discord, I plan on doing an icebreaker of some kind, or a gaming night on Discord this Saturday evening, so after sundown. I figure I'm just going to do Jackbox games. I'm a big fan of Fibbage or other kind of trivia games where you're not actually expected to know the answer. I like the trivia games where everybody feels like they don't know anything. So Fibbage is very good at that. Or I might do Scribblio, but Fibbage basically scales to whatever arbitrary number of people we want in the that are you can have players and like over 200 people in the audience, which is pretty good.
So we would love to see if you guys got the time. I know this is your first week, so.
And this is not a mandatory. I'm not checking who's there for credit or stuff. This is just simply so that because socialization is a good thing, and socialization that you don't have to get up to leave your house for is even nicer. So otherwise, I'm gonna go over in a bit where I hope you are in Rabbit Hunt, and if you're not there, this will help catch you up. And then just make sure and then we're going to go around the room making sure everybody is where they need to be. Okay? So right here, so once again, we're in the decide move. And I do want to mention this since you said we did get somebody claiming the bounty. Mm-hmm. The only way to get 100% on this is to have the rabbit cheat. Not for you to cheat, but to have the rabbit to cheat. And the only place you can really do that is, and I'm just going to show you the quickest way to do that now because that's already been claimed. We only honor it for the first person. But there's a couple different ways to do that. One is to just simply say that the game is over at the very beginning of the game, and you can only really and figuring this out requires careful parsing of the rules I gave you, saying you can only manipulate the rabbit code. But I said, hey, you're primarily going to be focusing on decide move. Well, if you have decide move, you see, you might look through model, and model has all these useful functions, but they're all private. And the Boolean is alive. Well, that's rabbit is alive, game is over. Those aren't private. Those are default, which means that they're public if you're in the same package, which you are. However, you only have access to, model in animal is private. So generally, you don't have access to it. Where do you have access to it? During the constructor. And that's the only place you have access to it. So, or being able to use it. So doing this does get you 100 on that. Like I said, only one that we've got a bounty for that. There's other things you can do, such as get the rabbit outside out of bounds and stuff like that.
We had a question.
Yes.
Why is it visible in the constructor?
Because it is passed in as an argument.
I see.
It is passed in as a local variable, essentially. So it's a local variable there, then it gets assigned then it gets passed into the constructor. To the super constructor, right? The parent's constructor. And then it gets set for that, which is private. Private means that not even your subclasses can see it.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's not really a good way to go about hiding it, but that is the way that works. But figuring that out requires you to, understand how object-oriented programming is working, which is kind of the objective of this lecture. So that's why I honor it for the first student who finds it. However, the reason I only honor it once is that otherwise it spreads like wildfire, and then everybody, I see the same solution. I don't feel everybody does the learning there. So for this one, I'm going to just get you caught up on where you should be with the decide move. All right. So the idea here is that with Fox, as I was saying, there's not really too much useful from Fox, because the fox is a predator, and it needs to actually really do a lot of work. On the other hand, the rabbit isn't going to do a lot of work. In fact, I don't like doing a lot of work myself. I like to be very consistent. I like to make sure that I can predict what's going to happen. And most of all, when I'm programming, I like to be lazy about it. Okay, I like to do as little work as little actual physical programming as possible, more thinking if possible. Model.stay is nice because that allows me to just simply stay put. Or you can just give it like an invalid number of some kind, right? Because if you give an invalid number, it's going to say you can't do that move. So decide move, just simply staying put otherwise, so that this makes it so that it's consistent. We only want to react to the fox, right? We only want to react to the fox. Because the way this game works, if we think about it, is that it's a turn-based game. Meaning that if the fox moves, then it's my turn, and then I move. Now, the fox's general strategy is that if it sees me, it's going to head towards me. Okay? However, the way the look function, the way this entire turn works is that he's going to look around for me, and then he's going to decide how he moves. So he looks, then he moves, and then it's my turn. So I have my turn and my ability to move before he looks again. So if he looks and he doesn't see me, even if he moves into a position where he's going to see me next turn, I can move out. I can look first, see him, and move out of the way. If I spot him first, I can hide. Make sense? That's the entire basis of the strategy. It is a turn-based. This is turn-based, so we can I can exploit the fact that we're taking turns. And furthermore, as I mentioned, as I drew last time, there's this giant. Since he's seeing in straight lines, there's these giant cones of blind spots that he can't see, right? I drew this last time very, very poorly, where if we've got if the fox is over here, right, and he's seeing in this direction, and he's seeing in these directions, right, I've got these entire areas where he's just not going to see me. So that's what I'm going to be aiming to do. He moves, he looks, doesn't see me, then he moves. I'm over here, and he's trying to see, and he's just moved into me. I'm going to go and look, see him, and then I'm going to react. Make sense? So I'm just going to stay put otherwise. And it's not perfect, but it works darn well. So how do I look for him? I do a for loop. For I. In IntelliJ, it's very nice. You can do like for I and hit tab, and boom, it just writes a for loop for you. I personally like, but we have to change this one up. Model dot min direction, and we're going to go up to and through model dot max direction. Okay, so through the minimum direction up to and including the max direction. So we're going to look. So for every possible direction, we are going to look in that direction, right? Look takes in a direction, and then I have to react to that. It's going to return a number. If look is equal to model dot fox, right? If I see the fox, then I need to react to that. And believe it or not, if you're doing the evasion, if you're just simply doing the line of sight evasion strategy, this is the entirety of the rest of your code fits into this if statement. That's it. Okay. Now, where we wanted to be last time was a very basic strategy, a very bad strategy for survival, but one that at least kind of gets you into the structure and ready to solve it. I'm about 80% of the ways there, which is that if I see the fox, run away screaming. And we need to do that with model.turn, okay? Which is to simply say, given a direction, return another direction, right? I don't want to say, because I don't want to do this. If I equals model dot n for north, I don't want to have to do this. Right? I don't want to have to do this because I'd have to do this for 8 different possibilities, right? That's kind of tedious. Make sense? So instead what we're going to do is we're going to use model.turn to basically say what our direction is. return model.turn I and 4. That is directly away from the Fox. And if we run the grader, it does not do much better, but it does. We were getting like still 1% survival rate, not really high. There is one thing that I will allow you to change in the rest of the classes, and that's if you want to bump up the grader to like be 3,000. Remember, this was written 20 years ago, so I'm sure that that 300 was perfectly reasonable then, but 3,000 works very fast now, and so boom. Okay, escaped 41 times out of 3,000, 1% of the time. No. Right, so it's not doing very well. Well, what if we try doing something other than running directly away? Instead, I mean, obviously we don't want to run directly towards it. That's just gonna, we're just leaping into the jaws of death. We're helping out the fox. Yeah, that's worse, obviously, just going straight to the fox. But, right, if he's looking at me and I'm moving back away, I'm still in his line of sight. So ideally, I want to get out of his line of sight. Now, out of his line of sight, the best option would be, in order to move out of line of sight, I have to move some way to the side, right or left. And then I've got 3 kind of options for going right or left in each direction. I can go closer to the right or left, or I could go just simply strafing, left or right, or possibly the best for somebody trying to run away, I can run back and to the left, or back and to the right. So back and to the left or back and to the right would be 5. And that surprisingly gets a huge boost. It doesn't take much, but suddenly we're surviving a third of the time with this. 1/3 of the time. Now, this is what I'll leave you with, but here I'm just making one choice. If I see the fox, I do this all the time. What you might want to think about is, can I have options? Because why am I dying? I ostensibly, like, if I'm on a clear field and there's no bushes and there's no walls, this works all the time. The fox sees me, I move back. And yeah, okay, the fox gets close to me again, but I'm going to move every time I see him. I'm going to move back, and now we're at the same speed. There's no way he's going to catch me. So why am I dying? Because there are bushes and walls. If I'm right here, I cannot move back into the left, right? I'm stuck in a wall. Similarly, if there's a bush right here, I move back into the left. There's a bush. I can't move through the bush. You think you'd be able to hide in the bush, but this is not that game. So I need maybe some other options I can do if I cannot move, right? And there's a way to check whether you can or cannot move in a certain direction. Once you're there, basically the problem is solved. The other thing I will mention, the big thing I will mention, and I'll show you this as I go around, is that deciding to go to the left or to the right matters, because the fox has a bias in the way he turns. I don't know why this really matters, but it does matter, right? It matters, like, it's a 20% survival rate difference whether you go left first or right first. So check that. It matters. And as a result, the order in which you try things will actually drastically affect your grade. So experiment, even if you feel like you've got a good survival rate. Once you're getting to the 88-89% survival rate, at that point you might be looking at how do you actually get a better grade. At that point, you need to look at what kind of cases your rabbit is going to die, is just failing and dying in. Sometimes you're just plain unlucky, and the fox is going to basically spawn pretty much on top of you, and there's nothing you can do about it. On the other cases, though, that's where you need to start looking at kind of keeping track of variables and stuff, and you need to start thinking about use those, and you got to use those variables to make decisions, such as, well, is it safe for me to move even though I don't see the fox, so I can be in a better position? And that's where the gate code really explodes, and why we kind of have this. I have this square root curve, because it becomes a very big thing of diminishing returns at that point. All right. So with that, David and I are gonna make our ways around the room, and I will always try to make it to each of you in turn, and then I always try to go the other way than I did the other day. So
Helps us to get to know you a little bit better too. 'cause
yeah, I do
sometimes-
enjoy this because I actually do get to know the students in this lab, or in this lecture, and
I mean, it's technically still
Yeah.
a lab, so I mean, you're not completely wrong.
all right.